Hey, so I just thought I'd remind everyone about how far back in time we as a society have gone when it comes to animation. Nowadays animation is based on the story and, how great it can be, with the characters and that's cool and all, but I feel like right now in time we're missing the core point of animation, and that's to make something that just you can't make in real life. Make bones in a body that can't move the way a normal body part can. Make characters perform silly dances that they could never do in real life. That's what a game like Cuphead really hit on the head. And why it was praised as much as it was. It wasn't just another run and gun, boss rush game. No, like people actually put frame by frame drawing effort into that game to make every frame of that game moves. There's always something happening. When the characters, they go up and down as they're moving, and no one is ever still. And it's just like, I feel like that's what we've missed with animation right now. Something like Inside Out would have worked just as well, or maybe not quite, but almost just as well if it was say, a live action movie. I feel like we're really missing the point of what animation was back in the day, and I think that's really important. Take The Haunted House. This was a Walt Disney short that included Mickey Mouse back in 1929. A holiday special, as far as I know. So first off, as it opens, watch the house move. And it blinks like the animation back in the day. The writers and the animators made everything alive, everything real, everything have a purpose. Nothing was just in the background. Like the outhouse here moves back, the tree moves. Like look at the house get angry when it stops. Everything had a purpose, even the grass. It's all coordinated. If you go back, everything moves the same time with the wind. Everything's got moving parts to it. And the house, the same thing that animation did back in the day. It made things that shouldn't be alive, alive. We don't know if the purpose of this house was for it to be alive. It looks alive. It blinks. It sways in the wind, but that's just how it's animated. It's up for interpretation whether it's real or if that's just how it's animated. Now if we go forward into it, it's Mickey Mouse. He goes up to the door. If you watch Mickey Mouse move, right here, it's not as interesting. But if you see what he did, if you see what he does when he first finds the house, this is something that you don't see in animation as often, that they used to do a lot, which is really cool. Watch him use his body. He's only got shorts on, but watch him use his body as a makeshift jacket kind of coat, like how something like a trench coat has these like flaps that you would put up around your neck. Watch him. Yeah, see, look at that. If we'll go back for a second, right there. That's not something you ever see in modern day movie animation. No one ever does this, but this is genius. It's literally it's the whole idea of what animation used to be. It's taking things that aren't real and couldn't be humanly physically possible and making it like this and using it as an animation. No one is ever allowed to do this, and that's what makes animation so cool. And if we go forward, his first scene of him in the house, it's not that notable. It's just a bunch of bats going around as far as animation is. But in this hallway is when things start to get interesting. If we go back, animation was at very few frames per second. So the illusion of the lights swinging back and forth is animated in such a way to where it looks like they're jingling all over the place. But in real time, if we go frame by frame, it's just the repeated, it's a repeated about probably 3 to, depending on what it is, maybe 10 to 20 animations over and over again, placed at different intervals to make it seem like it's going up and down. And you'll see that later in a very specific part that I can't get enough of this animation. So you see it go up and down, and even though frame by frame it's not actually moving, it's animated in such a way that it looks like it's moving. And it was a lot simpler back then, and it was a lot more, like, once again, what I think animation should be, what animation was, which was, you know, it was art. It was less, you know, it was trying to be its own thing. It wasn't trying to be human. It wasn't trying to be real. You know, it was purposely not real. Watch epileptic warning. It's a funny little part. Takes out a flashlight from who knows where. Oh, sorry, it's a match. Lights it on who knows what, and enters and puts it up in the air. And watch the shadow go back and forth. And then eventually it grows into a ghoul. And this is when we meet my personal favorite character of this entire animation. The ghoul is really interesting because of how it moves. And so are the rest of the skeletons, but especially this ghoul. It's made in big flowing gestures. You know, where everything's got curves. You know, it's not real. It's got what I was saying before about how people's bodies don't move like this. It moves in such a way that's physically, or sorry, it's satisfying to look at, but it's not. But it's so satisfying to look at because it's not real. Because no human body could actually ever do that. So he follows him there. Another interesting thing, funny thing about animation, as the door closes, the ground here comes up. You know, it's just a little fun thing about animation. You don't see shit like that ever in modern day animation. You don't ever see fun little gimmicks like the ground come up, and I think we're really missing that. Watch how fluidly the ghost moves towards Mickey. It's just the same animation, back and forth, you know, as he's going towards Mickey. But it's fluid, and it's interesting to look at, and it's so satisfying to look at because of just how simple it is. You know, like, first, his hand down, and his right hip is, you know, is jutted out. And then it switches to the other one, you know, where his left hand is down and his left hip is out. It just goes back and forth. It's so satisfying because it's so symmetrical. He reveals himself, and he goes for him. He tries to escape, and this is when the real fun part about animation, and why I really like animation like this back in the day. Animation back in the day was as much about the visuals as it was about the audio. And the music in this animation, maybe not, you know, the best in the world or my favorite or compared to modern day standards, and there's people have shown that better music goes with this animation. But just how the animation moves with the music is another interesting thing that I think modern day animation is just missing. Once again, the use of pulling out a, you know, part of himself, you know, as like clothing when it's a part of himself. Just another interesting thing you don't ever see. He's told to play. I also like how the ghoul is drawn. Look at those hands. It's very, once again, it's like very fluid. It's always, you know, when he moves, he's always moving, so it's satisfying to look at. But it's the kind of thing that you often see in animation where he's jittering back and forth. You know, it's to get a sense of the fact that they're always moving, even if they're not. It's usually, from what I know, it's usually drawn over. Things are more outlined when they're drawn over multiple times, maybe in like different areas, to give it a sense of like, to give it a sense of standing out or moving more. This is when this organ, piano, whatever this is scene, is also really cool. Something, once again, it's over the top, it's interesting, it's fun, and you never, ever, ever see it in nowadays animations. And I really wish you did, because it's really interesting, and how it's used with the music, and how it's used with, you know, the sound and everything that's going around him is really cool. So once again, he goes symmetrical back and forth, right foot down, and then, I'm sorry, left foot down and then right foot down along with the music, and his whole body is swaying with it. It's once again that that visually pleasing of left, right, left, right. How the piano is like this, it's nothing, it's all rounded. It's never like edges like this. When things are moving in animation, there's a good chance it's always rounded, which is just something really interesting to see, and it's pleasing to look at. I get why they do it. Just enjoy the music for a bit. This scene, we're gonna go back. That is probably one of the best scenes I've ever seen in animation. Modern, you know, back then in the 20s, 30s, you know, this is one of the best things of animation I've ever seen. This scene right here. Probably analyze that for a little bit. I don't know how it's a little bit grainy, but everything is moving. Everything that is a focal point is moving, and it's doing the same thing over and over again. What the animation wants you to look at is these skeletons, this clock, Mickey Mouse, and the ghoul. And not the window, not the picture, you know, not really the piano, not the door. I mean, they're all there, but they're lighter colors. You know, they're not outlined as much as the rest of the skeletons are, you know, or the clock. And they're not, they just don't move at all, you know, because they're not your focal point. Now as you go back, everything is moving. Let's take, like just right off the middle, the two skeletons in the middle. If you watch them, no straight edges, full curves, basically around everywhere, which makes it very fluid to animate. They go in, out, in, out, in, out, and then they do a little hokey pokey little thing, clap, along with the music, by the way. And then they've switched sides, but it's right back to the same thing. It's right back to the same animation, and it's so pleasing to watch. It's so interesting. If you watch down here with these skeletons, they clap along with the music, while the other ones either hit their asses with the bones or hit their heads, depending on what instrument is playing. And that's just, it's so interesting and nice to watch. And they even do pauses here. What? That pause right there is along with the animation. Everything stops with the music. It's just, I could talk about this forever. I need to go on to the next thing. The last one I want to talk about, at least when it comes to this scene, is the clock and the ghoul moving together. The ghoul right here is maybe, like, I know I said this scene is probably the best animation I've ever seen. This ghoul is my most favorite animation I've ever seen. Just watch how him and the clock move with the music. Not only are they perfectly in sync with each other, see that? Perfectly in sync with each other, they also stop right at the same time. They, you know, right in time with the music. They're just on with the music. Everything works. You know, them moving back and forth is synced with it. I mean, side to side. And how the ghoul is animated, with his arms going up and down, and going left to right, no straight edges, you know, it's all fluid, and it's just so pleasing to look at. It's just so nice, and it's It's so lacking in just nowadays animation. I love this so much. It's just animated so well. And I can't get behind Disney or Pixar movies nowadays because it's just not this fluid. It's not this interesting. Like, if any normal person were to do this kind of move, it would be weird. It doesn't make sense. But because of how it's animated, because of what it looks like, it's just so interesting. I don't know. I love it. I love it. I don't really think there's anything else of note in here. I suggest watching this entire thing for yourself, because the rest of the animation is about 3 minutes of the song, which is really good, and the rest of the animation with the song is good. It's perfectly in sync. If you see, I'll show you this one. It's perfectly in time with, I think that's maybe, it's some stick hitting something. When his heels click together. So it's perfectly in sync. It's really interesting. It's pleasing to look at. I just basically the point of this is I just for all for all the faults back in the 30s, 40s, 20s, whatever, they had some damn good animation, and it will never be topped by anything that's put out today.